Hello. So I want to share with you today's story how a client of me, let me call her Anne, how she shifted her anxiety and phobias and really became much more in tune with herself, in tune with her intuitive gifts. She found her voice and she learned how to put healthy boundaries with herself and with others. So how do you achieve this, right? How do you go from anxiety, panic attacks, and having a constant fear to this self-empowerment? This increased confidence that you feel safer in your relationships, that you're much more clear on who you are. So we start with the base, and the base for me and my hypnotherapy work is really to work on the nervous system, because whatever trauma you had in your childhood, in your past lives, or even in your adulthood sometimes, this is impacting your nervous system. So if you're constantly in fight and flight, right? If you're constantly nervous, agitated, frustrated, right? If calming down for you, balance is difficult, it means that your body is in an overdrive, right? So the most important thing is to really calm down the nervous system, stabilize the nervous system. And how do we do that? First of all, I regress. I take people back to scenes from their past or past lives. So they become obvious, they become aware. Where does this anxiety, where does this phobia, where does it come from? How come I have it? Like, for example, in the case of Anne, she had that phobia because her mom was incredibly anxious already when she was in the belly. In fact, it was very beautiful. I brought her back. I regressed her to when she was still in the uterus, and she could feel that huge anxiety. It was social anxiety. Her mom was extremely scared of people around her. She was physically abused by her own dad in her childhood, the mom then being. So she really had this sense of unsafety in her body, right? So that's what Anne absorbed already before, she came onto this planet, right? So that was her imprint. That was one of the scenes of the phobias, right? Another scene of the phobia of height is that her dad was stopping her mom from achieving certain things. So the dad was a really high achiever, right? The mom was more ambivalent about her career. She was working, but she wasn't getting everything out of it. And as her dad was such a high achiever, all the attention was focused on him because he was bringing in all the money. So the mom was kind of withholding herself. She was like impacted with fear, right? Impacted with fear of not putting herself out there. And that belief, these fears that her mom had a huge imprint on Anne. Because she, being the only girl, her mom taught her, don't shine too much, don't speak up too much. When people ask you, first listen to other people, then share your opinion, right? So she had a lot of these beliefs that, after all, in her adulthood really impacted her. So again, the first thing that we do is really work on the nervous system. So in the first 2 sessions, we stabilize the nervous system, working on anxiety, working on the phobia, right? I make these hypnotic audios where my client need to listen to every night before they go to sleep, and sometimes even more than once per day, to really rewire the brain. We need to reprogram the brain, because we can program, we can condition, we can instruct the mind, to accept certain beliefs, because that's hypnosis. Right? We're not doing hocus pocus. We're not doing any magic. No, hypnosis is going to such a deep state of relaxation that the mind goes open and it accepts all new suggestions. So instead of I'm fearful, I'm anxious, I'm afraid, no, like I feel confident. I have phenomenal coping skills. I believe in myself. I see my talents and gifts because Right, so this is a very, very powerful tape, where I use hypnotic language, and the client listens to it every night before they go to sleep. They sleep much better, right? And we start to rewire the brain. We start to make new neural pathways. So we start to make these new beliefs. So after these 2-3 sessions where we really, really focus on balancing the nervous system, we go into the fear of rejection, right? I haven't met one anxious person that doesn't have any fear of rejection, right? Anxiety goes together with fear of rejection. Right? So we really need to handle that fear of rejection. So again, I regress, we look at where it comes from, then we shift it with the techniques I have, or I use cognitive behavior therapy techniques, heart math techniques, hypnotic techniques, psychotherapy techniques, NLP techniques. So I shift it, and then again I make an audio. After the fear of rejection, we deal with fear of criticism. Something which is very interesting whenever I work on anxiety, and most of the time I do specialize in anxiety, I work on that fear of rejection and that fear of criticism. Criticism, because in hypnosis, it's incredibly important how you speak to yourself. And people are very afraid of criticism. Mostly, they speak to themselves in the most awful way. You know, they speak to themselves in a very critical way. So it's about dealing with that fear of criticism of others, but also like rewiring, making you speak in a completely different language, right? Instead of beating yourself up, I'm stupid, I'm lazy. No, you're going to start to talk to yourself in a good way, right? And again, this is not about affirmations. This is really about listening to this audio and letting in new suggestions. For example, I give my clients homework. I tell them, you write on your mirror, I'm enough, right? So every day they go and brush their teeth. They need to say out loud, I'm enough. I tell them to put it on their laptop. I tell them to put it on their phone screen. I tell them to write it and to put it on their desk. I tell them to write and to put it on the fridge. So wherever they go, they see it, right? And the mind learns by repetition. If you see this note like 5 times a day, your mind is going to accept it. Oh, like, oh, wow, yeah, I'm enough, I'm enough, I'm enough, I'm enough. You start to accept that, right? So again, we work on the nervous system, we work on the fear of rejection, we work on the fear of criticism, and then we really give confidence a boost. So I help people to install a cheerleader. So again, that's together with like the fear of criticism. Instead of having that inner critic, I help people to change their inner language. How would it be if someone would be cheering for you? How would it be if a person would really see your talents and gifts? Like, yay there, girl, go, I see you, you got this. So really speaking to yourself in a positive way. And then normally one of the last sessions I do with people, or I coach them, right? Or again, we go into hypnosis and we go back to a past life. Right? For some people who are interested in this is an amazing experience. And why is past life so amazing? Because we have a lot of generational trauma. The relationships we have, they're all karmic, right? It's beautiful to see why you have such a difficult relationship with your mom. It's beautiful to see why you're stuck in a certain pattern. I had this client, and although she has so many gifts, although she has worked extensively on herself, she always had these thoughts of suicide. She was never going to do it, but she always had this thing, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. Whenever things were happening, she was held back, right? So when I regressed her to a past life, she could see that suicide, suicidal thoughts, had to do because in a past life she committed suicide, right? She committed suicide while her own sister was watching. And then in this life, her own sister was her mom. and her mom died when she was young, right? So just to balance out, you know, the fact that she committed suicide, the fact that in this life she always had these suicidal thoughts, the fact that in this life her mom, you know, lost her life, to balance things out, just for her to see this, it gave her an enormous boost of confidence. It just created this awareness, okay, so I had this pattern and now I know where it comes from and now I can let it go. So I've talked a little bit about how I work. If this talks to you, if you can resonate with anything that I said, if you can resonate with the story of Anne or of my other client, contact me. Send me an email, me@limeyoung.com. Follow me on YouTube, watch my other videos, like them, share them with other people. Look at my Facebook, Instagram, or WeChat when you're in China. I'm happy to hear from you. Bye.